Hello children. In this class, let us continue the gene disorders which we have discussed previously. So the fourth gene disorder is the phenylketonuria. It is a phenylketonuria which is also called as PKU. It is a rare autosomal disorder. It is a rare autosomal recessive disorder which is seen in the human beings. So here the defect lies in the 12th chromosome. The defect, where do the defect lies? The defect is in the 12th chromosome. 12th chromosome is defective. Let me write here. 12th chromosome is having a defective gene. Has defective gene. Defective gene. Fine. And as we are not studying here the inheritance pattern, let me not bother about the indication of the genes. Where the defective gene is present, it is present on the 12th chromosome. Fine. As the defect lies in the gene, so it is considered, we will study this under the gene disorder. Let me rub this one. Only important things I wrote it on the board. Of course, 12th chromosome you have to remember. Fine. Now, so it is a rare autosomal disorder. What will happen here? As the defect lies in the gene which produces the enzyme called phenylalanine hydroxylase. Fine. Because of the 12th chromosome, defect in the 12th chromosome, the phenylalanine hydroxylase is not produced. So what is the importance of this phenylalanine hydroxylase? So this enzyme, it is responsible for the normal metabolism of phenylalanine. This phenylalanine, it is a protein, it is a amino acid which is present in our diet. Through the diet we will take phenylalanine. So this phenylalanine's metabolic pathway, for its metabolic pathway, phenylalanine hydroxylase is necessary, and the end product of phenylalanine is tyrosine and melanin. Fine. So this is the normal pathway of phenylalanine. So when the defective gene is present for the production of phenylalanine hydroxylase, this enzyme is not produced. So this enzyme is not produced here. So what will happen to the products? The different products are formed. That is phenylpyruvic acid and phenylactic acid, and their derivatives are formed. Tyrosine and melanin is not formed. Instead of these two, these are formed, and it creates a problem. Fine, it creates a problem. So what if it will get deviated from the normal pathway? The skin color and the hair color will become very light because of the absence of the pigment, and there is a delay in the mental and social skill of an individual, and we will see the rashes on the skin. Sometimes a musky odor is coming out from the body of that individual, and the accumulation of this byproduct, that is phenylalanine, phenylactic acid and the derivatives, leads to the mental retardation in the individual. Fine. The accumulation of these in the brain slowly, when it becomes more and more, it leads to the mental retardation, and these derivatives are also eliminated in the urine. So this is asked for 3 marks in the annual exam. So these disorders are asked for 3 marks in the annual exam. Let me repeat what important things you have to remember. That is phenylketonuria. It is a rare autosomal disorder. It is a rare autosomal disorder, and it is due to the defective gene. It is due to the defective gene present on 12th chromosome. Let me write here 12th chromosome. Fine. And which is responsible for the production of this enzyme, phenylalanine hydroxylase. Fine. Because of the absence of this enzyme, what is going to happen? Phenylalanine is not metabolized properly. Instead of producing pyruvic acid, it will produce the It will produce the phenyl pyruvic acid and phenyl lactic acid instead of producing the tyrosine. Instead of producing the tyrosine, it will produce these products. And the accumulation of these products in the mind, in the brain, leads to the mental retardation. And these products are also eliminated in the urine. The accumulation of the absence of melanin, as this enzyme is absent, melanin is not produced. As the melanin is not produced, the pigmentation will be absent. The light, the skin and the hair color will become very light. And in these children, the social skills and the mental skills will develop very, very late. So this is about the phenylketonuria, which is also called as PKU. Now let us go to the thalassemia. Thalassemia or samia. Let me go. Now let me go to the last one, that is thalassemia, or you can pronounce it as thalassemia. Fine. Thalassemia, it is autosomal recessive blood disorder. Fine. It is a autosomal recessive gene disorder and it is a blood disorder, and it is same as that of the sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia, here the hemoglobin which is formed is abnormal, because abnormal beta and alpha chains are formed. Here maybe the alpha chain is abnormal, maybe the beta chain is abnormal. Due to that, the hemoglobin which is formed is abnormal, and which results in the anemia. And here, due to the abnormality of alpha or the beta chain of the hemoglobin, more and more RBCs are destroyed. That is, it results in the destruction of red blood cells, which of course when the RBCs will get damaged, automatically it leads to the anemia. So that is about the information about the thalassemia. So thalassemia, maybe it is due to the defect in the alpha thalassemia, or it may be due to the defect in the beta thalassemia. So alpha thalassemia, here the change lies in the alpha chain, and this was first observed in Mediterranean region. So it is also called as Mediterranean anemia. And now types of thalassemia. Thalassemia, it is classified into two types. Whether the individual is having a homozygous or heterozygous condition. Thalassemia major will result when the individual will inherit both the defective gene from both the parents. Fine. So that is called major, thalassemia major. Thalassemia minor, when individual inherit defective gene from one of their parent. That is, it is heterozygous in condition. Fine. So that is about the thalassemia minor. So thalassemia major is also called as Coles anemia. It is also called Coles anemia. Now what important point for 2 or 3 marks you have to remember about the thalassemia? Thalassemia, it is a autosomal recessive gene disorder. Fine. It is a autosomal recessive gene disorder where it is considered as a blood disorder because the defect lies in the hemoglobin. Defect lies in the hemoglobin. That too in the alpha and the beta chain. If alpha chain is defective, then it is called alpha thalassemia, which is seen for the first time in the Mediterranean region, and if the defect lies in the beta chain, then it is called beta thalassemia. And here the thalassemia is classified into two types, that is thalassemia major and thalassemia minor. When it is considered major, when the individual will inherit both the defective gene from both the parent, and if he inherits one gene from one parent, then it is called thalassemia minor. So this is about the thalassemia. Now let us go through the different types of sex-linked inheritance. Now let me go to the sex-linked inheritance. So types of sex-linked inheritance. You already know that the Morgan discovered the sex-linked inheritance the genes which are present on the sex chromosome and are responsible for the somatic characters. For that he got Nobel Prize in 1933. Fine. So here, sorry. So here in sex-linked inheritance, we can classify them into three types. So X-linked inheritance, Y-linked inheritance and XY-linked inheritance. X-linked inheritance. So here certain genes which will control the body characters, which will control the somatic characters are present on the X chromosome and their alternate forms of alleles are not present on the Y chromosome, and such a type of inheritance is called X-linked inheritance. Fine. So what do you mean by X-linked inheritance? So it is the inheritance of somatic characters through the X chromosome and their alternative forms of genes are not present on the Y chromosome. Fine. So that is a X-linked inheritance and the examples are already you have learned color blindness and the hemophilia. So next is the Y-linked inheritance. Y-linked inheritance means certain genes which will control the somatic characters are present on the Y chromosome and are totally confined to the males only, as the Y chromosome is absent in the females. The genes, of course, which are present on the Y chromosome are responsible for the male characters, maleness. They are confined totally to the males. So such genes are called Y-linked genes, or they are also called as Hollandric genes. Hollandric genes, fine. And the important, visible, common, very common character is the hypertrichosis. What do you mean by hypertrichosis? It is the development of the hairs on the ear pinna. So the males will develop hairs on the ear pinna, females never develop. It is a male character and this character is directly getting inherited from the father to the son. If the father is having the hypertrichous ear, if he is hypertrichosis, then the son also will grow the hairs on the pinna after the as the age advances, nearly after 35 to 40 years, he also will develop the hairs on the pinna. That is called the hypertrichosis. And XY linked genes, that is the genes which are responsible for certain body characters, they are found on the both X and the Y chromosome. So such a type of inheritance is called XY linked inheritance and the genes are called XY linked genes as they are found on both the chromosomes. The common examples are the xeroderma and the nephritis. So these are the examples of XY linked genes. So what you have learned now? So sex linked inheritance for the first time. Who gave the idea about the sex linked inheritance? It is the Morgan. T.H. Morgan gave us the idea about the sex linked inheritance and sex linked genes which will control the body characters. And they are present on the sex chromosome, and for this he got the Nobel Prize, I told. And how many types of sex linked inheritances you will see? X linked inheritance, where the genes are located on the X chromosome. Y linked inheritance, where the genes are located on the Y chromosome. And Y linked genes are also called as Hollandric genes. This you have to remember. And the XY linked genes. Fine. And the next one is the sex influenced genes. So sex influenced genes are those genes which are present on the autosomes. Fine. They are present on the autosomes, but their expression is regulated by the sex hormone. Their expression is regulated by the sex hormone. The example is the baldness. You know that the baldness is commonly seen in the males. Baldness is commonly, that is the loss of hairs, and it is lost in different pattern, and it is commonly seen in the males and it's not seen in the females. It is an autosomal character. It is an autosomal character which is present on the autosome, but their expression is regulated by the sex hormone. In the presence of testosterone, in the presence of testosterone, testosterone. In the presence of testosterone, baldness is expressed. Fine. And you know that in the female, estrogen is present. In the presence of estrogen, baldness is not expressed. As the female approaches menopause, when the female approaches menopause, estrogen production is not there. The testosterone level in the blood will increase a little bit, or sometimes it may increase more. At the time, the loss of hair is seen. The hairs are lost after the menopause, but it will not lead to the baldness. So that is about the sex influenced genes. Now this completes the principles of inheritance and variations. Now we have to see the questions which are asked in the annual exams. Just go through this. Now let us say some of the questions which are asked in the annual exam. I told you that it is one of the important chapter where 10 mark questions are asked in the annual exam, and they will be asked in the bits like 2 plus 3 plus 5. So let me read out the questions. What is test cross? Mention its significance, 2 marks. Test cross and its significance you have to write. Mention the cause and effects of phenylketonuria. So just now we have in the previous class we have discussed that you have to write the cause. Cause is the absence of enzyme, and its effect you have to write, which is for 3 marks. And write the schematic representation of dihybrid cross. You have to write the schematic presentation for the dihybrid cross and mention the results, both phenotypic and genotypic you have to mention. It also can be asked in the form of state law of independent assortment and schematically represent the dihybrid cross. Now mention 2 symptoms of Turner's syndrome. You have to write the 2 symptoms, the 2 important symptoms you have to write. Each one will carry 1 mark. And what is male heterogamety? Explain sex determination in humans. Definition 1 marks, and just you have to write the schematic presentation on theory form, which will fetch you 2 marks. And what is the conclusions? What are the conclusions drawn by T.H. Morgan from the crossing experiment in Drosophila with respect to the linkage? For 2 marks each, linkage conclusion you have to write what is linkage and types of linkage. It will fetch you 2 marks. And what is aneuploidy? Write the 4 symptoms of Down syndrome. You have to write what is aneuploidy, 1 marks, 4 symptoms, each one will carry half of marks. And with reference to the flower color in snapdragon, explain incomplete dominance. You have to full schematic presentation with the explanation will fetch you 5 marks. And mention the possible genotype of AB blood group individuals. You have to write here the genotype of A and B. You have to write both homozygous and heterozygous condition you have to write. Fine. That will fetch you 2 marks. The shape of RBCs of sickle cell anemia patients changes to elongated sickle-like structure. Give reason. Why the shape of the RBCs changes to sickle shape? That you have to give the reason. Then next question. Why has T.H. Morgan selected fruit flies for his genetical experiment? You have to give 4 reasons for selecting Morgan for his genetical experiment. Each point will give you, each line will give you half marks. And the next one, write the karyotype of the following syndrome. Just you have to write the karyotype. Each karyotype is going to give you 1 mark. That is the Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome and the Turner syndrome, which already in the theory you have seen. So I wrote here few questions which are asked in the annual exam. So go through the principles of inheritance and variations and try to answer all the questions which are asked in the annually. You can see that when you see the coming papers, 2 to 3, passing mark questions are repeated. Passing marks questions will be repeated. Fine. So just go through it. Have a nice day, children.